Hi, I'm Peter Loshak with SBRtv, continuing my season-long NBA Conference betting reports and ATS updates. Right now we're going to look at the Eastern Conference for games through February 13th. The big news in the East right now, of course, is the Knicks, led by Jeremy Lin. Not only have they been winning, but they've been covering as well. As of today, they've now covered 8 in a row after starting the season on a terrible 5-15 against the spread run. Going forward, though, the likelihood of value with Knicks lines is pretty unclear. Despite all the hype, Lin has still only started 5 games for the Knicks, and of course both Carmelo Anthony and Anthony Stoudamire have been out for 3 of those 5 games. 2 of the first 4 covers of the Knicks' current ATS run were by only half a point, while the 4 covers after Stoudamire went down came by an average of almost 11 points. So that indicates that a big market overreaction probably occurred. But we'll see how the lines adjust and how the play of the Knicks changes as Lin plays more games in a row and Anthony and Stoudamire return. The top ATS team overall in the East is still Philadelphia at 18-9-1 against the spread on the year, but that's entirely due to their hot start, and as expected, their ATS results have come back down to earth at about 500 over the past 2 weeks. But they continue to beat up on weaker teams on the court, and on the year, as a favorite of 7 points or more, they're actually 12-2 against the spread, and that's a trend that may continue to be over 500 going forward, especially if they struggle a bit against the top-tier teams. The Bulls have the second best year-long ATS record in the East at 18-12, and as I mentioned previously, that's probably a solid trend that's going to continue. The Bulls get a lot of respect on their spreads, game in and game out, of course, but they're so deep and talented that they might not be getting quite enough, and they may continue to be a moderately good bet going forward long-term, although probably more so on the road as they have been so far this year, where they're 13-7 against the spread as opposed to just 5-5 against the spread at home, where their favorite spreads can get very high. Toronto and Detroit are 2 teams that have been on strong ATS runs recently, both covering 5 out of their last 6 games. But 3 of Detroit's covers came against the Nets, and 2 of Toronto's came against Washington. Still, Toronto does have a young team that's usually substantially outmatched, but nevertheless trying to improve, and their recent covers against the Lakers and Boston might be indicative of good spot bets on Toronto in the future. If they're a decent-sized underdog against a brand-name team with aging stars, they might be undervalued in those spots down the stretch in the second half. Charlotte and Washington continue to be the worst ATS teams in the East, both losing against the spread about 2/3 of the time. Charlotte in particular is not coming at all close to covering most of their games. They're 2-8 against the spread over their last 10, and amazingly 5 of those ATS losses came by more than 15 points. So unless their play or lines adjust significantly in the near future, they're probably going to continue to be a good bet against, even as a double-digit underdog. With totals, the very strong lead-wide under trend that we saw at the beginning of the year has definitely evened out, and there are actually a few teams now that are clearly looking like they have totals a little on the low side in the East, most notably Milwaukee. The Bucks are 17-9 over-under on the year, and they've gone over in 11 out of their last 12 games. Their posted totals are still in a modest range, while their game scores are routinely in the 200s, and even in their last 5 games, all of which went over, their games went over by more than 10 points in regulation in 4 of them. So look for that trend to probably continue for at least a little while longer. And that's my look at the Eastern Conference through the games of February 13th. For SBRtv, I'm Peter Loshak.